The tyrannical dynasty is rapidly expanding, exploiting cities across the galaxy. Can we work together to resist this dynasty and make sure it's not going to take its total control over the galaxy? Or are you part of the dynasty, and are you looking for the resistance hidden on one of these bases? Either way, my name is Joseph Nicholas, and today we're going to be looking over Liberation. Liberation by Buttonshy Games is an asymmetrical two-player card game that plays in under 20 minutes. Now this game pits the resistance or the liberation against the dynasty. Now the liberation's goal is to sabotage the dynasty and not be found for at least 3 acts or 3 rotations of the cards being shuffled. The dynasty's goal is to find the liberation hidden on one of these cities, taking control of cities and exploiting cities. So are you gonna help the resistance gain the support to take down the dynasty, or are you going to bring the resistance to suffer the consequences of being against the the dynasty? This game uses card drafting, hand management, and area control to get all this done. This game is one of the wallet-sized card games by Buttonshy Games, so all of this is going to be compacted into 18 cards. It's easy to learn, fun to play. Why don't we check it out? So this game comes with 4 galaxy maps that you will be shuffling and turning to put together to create the galaxy. As you can tell, each city off the card will connect to another city. That's the adjacent city. And of course, these can always continue to rotate whichever way you'd like to create, a lot of variable maps in the game. The game also comes with 14 city cards, all labeled A through N, matching up to the cities here, A through N. Now, to begin the game, shuffle the 4 map cards like we did earlier and put them in a 2x2 grid as you see here. With the 14 city cards, go ahead and shuffle them into a face-down deck with 1 being on top. Now this is going to be the 3 acts that the liberation has to get through in order to win. Each card showcases which city it's from, the great artwork that showcases, the different planet that you're on, the liberation's mission, and the dynasty's mission. Now these can be played during the turn. One thing to note, some cards ask for a cost. As you see here, this means you have to exploit 2 cities. Some cards also ask that you discard cards from your hand. So let's get a game started here. Begin the game by shuffling and dealing 3 cards to both players. I will be playing the Liberation, they will be playing the Dynasty. So the Dynasty starts by drawing a card and owning it as a city. Now, what can you do as the Dynasty? The Dynasty can do a couple things on their turn. They can draw a card and place it in their hand. If not, they can unexploit an already exploited city, which I'll explain in a moment, or they don't have to take an action at all. But this player is going to go ahead and draw a card into their hand. Now on their turn, after the start turn, this is the action phase. On the action phase, they get to unexploit an exploited card, which once again, I'll explain later. They get to play a mission card from their hand, so they'll look at the missions here and be like, okay, I think I want to play this one here that says I can occupy or attack a city up to 3 cities away. So all I have to do is exploit a city. Now, see that symbol here means exploit. So I can exploit a card, which is actually one of the turn moves that you could do on your turn, beside unexploiting a card or playing the directive, which is doing a mission card. The third action you can do is exploit a card. Now, if you exploit a card, it can only be from your city. But doing this allows you a couple new actions. One being occupy. You can occupy a neighboring city, an adjacent city in your hand from C. So if I wanted to, well, I can't currently because none of the cards allow me to. But if I had, so once I've exploited this card, the new opportunities I have would be to occupy a city, which I'll look at the map and be like, okay, well, I'm adjacent to B, A, and N when I only have N in my hand, so I'll go ahead and occupy this, because you can only occupy adjacent cities, right? So I occupy this. Now I have 2 cards in my city. I now have a larger reach. See, my adjacent cards now are K, L, A, and B, because I own both these cards, and the adjacency are these cards. There's nothing adjacent to this side because there's nothing connected. The next thing I can do, a different move I can do, is attack. So I'll name an adjacent city, B, A, or in this case N, because I am no longer owning N. I'm just showcasing what actions you can take. I'll name an adjacent city. So since I exploited C, I'm going to say A. Now if the Liberation has an A in their hand, which they don't, the Dynasty can take that card and either put it in their city or just discard it. But luckily, the Dynasty does not have that in their hand. The third thing the exploited card can do is actually run the mission, perform the mission that's listed here. But make sure to pay the cost. So for this case, since I've exploited this, I have no other card to exploit. So I'd have to have a card in my city, unexploited, that I'd have to exploit in order to do this mission. Okay, now what about the Liberation? Before we actually get a game going here, what can they do? So they'll start by looking at their hand, and they'll play a card in secret to their base. Now this is the secret base that the Dynasty is trying to hunt down. They don't know that I'm on J because I played it up, downside. So I'm going to draw a card, and what I could do is evade. What I could do is take my hidden card back, and I either could switch it out with another card, or, be a little secret about it and play that card back down. So now the Dynasty's confused. Was he on the card that I think he was on? Did he change it out, or did he just leave it there to throw me off? Another thing I could do is sabotage. I name a city that is adjacent to the card in my hand or to my base, and if the Dynasty has that in their hand, they have to discard it. So if I'm looking at B, I could name A. And if they have A in their hand, which they don't, they would have had to discard it. Mission. So I have to look at a card, decide which mission in the Liberation side I'd like to take, show it, and then either pay the cost or just do the action if there is no cost. So this one says choose a city and up to 2 adjacent cities. For each chosen city, either sabotage or exploit. So I either force an exploit on the card or make them discard a card. Now, as we go through the game, the deck will be depleting and discards will be showcasing, and the discard will be building. Once the entire deck is depleted, shuffle this discard deck and move it to the second act. If the Liberation can get through 3 acts of this, they win. If the Dynasty finds their hidden base before these 3 acts are up, the Dynasty wins. So let's go through a quick little round. So let's say the Dynasty goes first. They're going to look at their hand, they're going to draw a card, and they're going to say, okay, what do I want to do? Well, why don't I just occupy instantly? I'm going to go ahead and exploit this card and play this down since it's adjacent. Now I own 2 cards in my city. I have a larger range of things that I can do. That ends my turn. So the Resistance or the Liberation, they draw a card and like, okay, well, I kind of want to sabotage a card, and I'm going to say just M. Well, that's not pretty good. I want to get something that's a little better than that. J, I'm sorry. So I actually is a little better because you have J and H with I. So I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? Let's sabotage them. So I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to say J. I'm sabotaging J. So they look in their hand and they don't have it. But if they would have had it, they had to discard it. Now I have to discard down to 3, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. There we go. Now they go. They're going to pick up their hand. They're going to, instead of drawing a card, they're going to unexploit the card. Okay. So now that he's unexploited, he's going to take his next turn, which is, again, he's going to exploit. So he's going to exploit N, actually, so he can attack. He's going to attack K. Now I actually have K in my hand, and since I have it in my hand, I have to discard it, or he gets to occupy it. So I think he's actually going to occupy this city and own it in his little city here. So now he has 3 cards. That was my, luckily he didn't take my secret base, but unfortunately he now has a wider variety of cards to pick from. Okay, so that was his turn. Now it's my turn. I'm going to, draw again, right? Let's see. Ooh, discard half rounded up of the card. Discard half of the cards in the deck rounded up. I love this. So what I'm going to do is actually discard this card. I'm gonna reveal it. Discard down. So there's 3 cards left. I'm gonna discard half rounded up. So that's 1 card. I'm pretty close to ending this act here. Now I discard this. Now let's say, all the cards are discarded. I'll shuffle them back up. Start Act 2. We keep going. One more time. The first person to complete their objective wins. Dynasty needs to find my hidden base, while I need to survive 3 acts. What I don't like is that this game seems to shuffle the same 3 mission cards on the liberation side pretty regularly. I would like to see a couple more missions available to take on that kind of adds a little more variety to playing as the liberation. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a good amount of missions to help you create the rift to stop the dynasty from finding you. However, I just wish there were a couple more. But what I do like, come on, asymmetrical players. Now, I know that this could be hard to learn every single character, but there's only 2 to learn, and they're not that hard to learn. Each one does play differently with the actions you can take and the strategy you want to use, which is great, because let's say you play Liberation consistently. Well, eventually you will play Dynasty, and it plays so different that it's like a whole new game. The artwork is great itself. I feel like each city really brings to you different terrains and biomes and infrastructure. It seems like there is no same cities throughout the galaxy, and I love that, because you are traveling the galaxy, you are hiding on a certain city or occupying these cities, and you want to see that each city is completely different because it is a brand new planet. Not to mention, I am a huge fan of the variable map, whether you're playing at 180 degrees or just putting them together when you shuffle them. Each city creates a completely new experience with the off-the-card adjacency. Let's be honest, this is a great 2-player game that fits nice high strategy into 18 cards. So it is great for travel and for a quick outing at lunch. Since it is part of the wallet games, of course it's really easy to travel around. It's portable, it's going to come in a wallet. As far as accessibility, game difficulty-wise, while the game is easy to learn, the game reads fairly easily, of course, being very direct with the rules and how to play. I think the critical issue here is just being accustomed to the mechanics given in this game. Maybe brush up a player on a few gateway games before introducing them to this, just so they get a feel of how variable powers work or how card drafting works. Or if anything, have the new player take control of the liberation. I feel that the Dynasty takes a little more seasoning to get down that player, whether it's strategy or just the actions you can take. The Liberation's a great way to introduce them to the game, and once they're comfortable enough, let them play the Dynasty if you'd like. Honestly, this game has very tight mechanics, simple gameplay, and a lot of strategy for 2 players. I would recommend this if you're looking for a micro game to lend you that bit of strategy during game night, or if you just have, a second player and you've already exhausted a lot of the 2-player games, or maybe you played something that has a lot of tactical game length, all that, and you want something not necessarily easy to play, but definitely plays in about 20 minutes. Thanks for watching.